specifically about that music and generally as we delve into the conversation of depression and mental illness. This one we escalated further to looking at the aspect of suicide, and Sunday, September 5th marked the beginning of National Suicide Prevention Week, and according to the World Health Organization, the key facts are that more than about 700,000 people die due to suicide. Well, that is every year. For every suicide, there are many more people who attempt suicide, and a prior suicide attempt is the single most important risk factor for suicide in the general population. They also say that suicide is the fourth leading cause of death in 15 to 19-year-olds. That is 77% of global suicides occur in low and middle income countries. Ingestion of petrol or pesticide, hanging and firearms are the most common methods of suicide globally. And so today, as I have said, we'll be discussing depression and mental illness, which in most cases triggers suicidal and murder thoughts. And so as we get into this conversation, we want to make it as emotional as possible, but above everything, we seek answers on how we can reverse these numbers. It's a crucial conversation that is out here. As we say, it is Awareness Week for matters suicide. The biggest question is, how do we get ourselves to say that, you know what, we have reduced this number to a lower rate? How do we make sure that we speak to our friends, we speak to our relatives, we speak to people who are pretty close to us, just to know how they are faring on? During this time of COVID-19, times have become even worse. Unprecedented moments. COVID-19 is here. You've lost your job. You probably have lost your family. They say that, you know, in as much as it's family, COVID-19 got us staying as husband and wife, you know, husbands and wives at home. And then we realized that, oh, actually sometimes the distance helps in a huge way to quell some of the fights that we have around. And so many people have equally lost their families or their wives and husbands at this point of COVID-19. Many have lost their loved ones because of death, and then you look at the world and you're thinking it has come down crumbling on me. What is the next thought? One, the first thing that triggers in or trickles in is the aspect of stress, then to depression, then you're under medication, then maybe of course to psycho levels, and worst of all to levels where you decide to take your own life. Others make it even worse. They decide to take the lives of their loved ones, because as a mother, I'm thinking, I don't want to leave this little boy alone, because then how will will life treat them, or how will the world treat this little boy? And so I think, well, instead of leaving him in this brutal world, I'll first kill him, and then once I have killed him, then I take my own life. You know what? Reality is that we can reverse these cases. Reality is that we can speak to each other every day. Wake up in the morning, make that phone call to Linda. I wake up as early as 3 a.m. At exactly maybe 8:30 when I'm on break. Why can't I make a phone call to this one person? It could be a game changer. It could be that one phone call that will make her or him change their mind. It could be that one phone call that will make her get into a moment and say, you know what, there's more to life than just taking your own life. So let's get into this discussion as we reminisce, as we get to know how best we deal with the scenario. I'm glad and I'm honored this morning to have the presence of counselors, life coaches, and you know, people who are specialists in making sure that at least our minds are set. And so we have Bogo Mombi, life coach, who's with us. Forgive me, Mom, for having not started with you. And yes, Jane Gatia is a counselor. They say ladies first, men before. So that's why I started with the life coach. And yes, Jane Gatia is a counselor. And we also have Eustace and Derito, who's the CEO Solani Tours, has a special story for us. You know, that story of hope. Sometimes we just want to listen to that one person who tells you, you know what, worry not, been there, done that, got a t-shirt, and here I am soldiering on. And so we'd love to hear his story on how he's grown from grass to grace, and above everything, that story of hope. Also later on, we are expecting to get a hold of Jua Kali, like I had earlier mentioned. You know, we just get to understand what got him writing this piece. And also Nelly. Nelly is one of the few people who've also gone through it all, and she equally is willing to, you know, just share her story right now. She's not just gone through it all. She's still in that moment. She is struggling with life. She is battling with the tough times of life. But you know what? She chooses to soldier on. She chooses to come and share her story so that somebody out there can be helped. We cannot wake up early in the morning to say that we want to help you and you choose to give up on life. Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana.
Thank you very much.
And here we are. We go straight to it, depression and mental illness. Bogwa.
Thank you very much for having us here. We're truly grateful. As a life coach, I would want to say that almost every human being has gone through these challenges and probably has contemplated at one time or another to commit suicide. But I think the biggest challenge that we have, and that is why we're here today, is that sometimes if you don't know who you are and what you have in terms of your ability to manage the life challenges, the world can reduce you into a small mold where you feel like you have no hope, for the future and so on and so forth. Largely because you probably don't have the skill sets of life. When I cleared high school, for example, when I was in high school, my greatest desire and yearning was to go to the university. I was a very, very clever student, very clever in primary school, very clever in high school. And everybody, the entire school, my family, and the society expected me to go to the university. And not just to go and do any course, a very unique and exotic course.
Yeah.
So for example, when I didn't make it to the university, I missed by a few points. To me, life became totally meaningless. I felt like I didn't have a future. I felt like the flavor and the dreams and the visions I had of a future, because I wanted to be, I came from a very, very poor family, and I thought I was one of those who would really change the status of our family. So we go through these things in life. And sometimes if there's nobody nearby to help, if you don't speak out, if you don't know that you have the power within you to address these things, they can very easily squeeze you to giving up and to contemplating suicide.
Right.
Let me give you an example. If you look at this piece of paper, which is whole, because that is how it has been manufactured. But if you compare the two, this is all crumbled up. And it's very easy for you to look at this piece of paper and probably write it off as useless, as has no value. Until probably you take more time and think of opening it up. Because I think the biggest challenge we will address here is what we can do to ensure that these thoughts do not, at the end of the day, overwhelm us and we commit suicide or we contemplate to harm ourselves. If you open up this piece of paper, which initially probably you thought is valueless, it's useless, if you took time, you may realize there could be something valuable it hides. And this piece of paper represents our own lives, the way God has created us, because there's no human being who has not been created without value. So you may, rather than just throw this piece of paper into the dustbin because you think you judged it initially as useless, as has no value, as not containing anything, you may realize along the way that it has some value.
There's money inside.
There's money inside.
Sure.
And I think the point I want to bring out clear is that there's not a single human being in this world who doesn't have value.
Okay.
Because our value comes from God. And God created us with the ability, with the potential, with the capacity, and I have no doubt about this, to manage any kind of challenge that may come along our way in this life. We have that ability. We have that potential. But unfortunately, most of the times, either sometimes because of the experience in the past, for example, somebody was raped when they were young, this is still in them, nobody has ever addressed that.
Right.
We reach a point where we feel that probably this is my end. And therefore, we contemplate taking such drastic actions of self-destruction.
Jane, we come to you, and interesting that Bogwa speaks of a scenario where maybe everyone at some point in time has probably contemplated suicide. If not so, then I don't know. This is different for me. I have not gotten to those levels where I've said, now this is it. I'm over and done. Not to say that I do not have troubles. Of course, there are troubles I've gone through and I felt like, you know what, this is a way too much. But I've always told myself that if it goes beyond a scenario where I can't do it and I can't do it, so there's that option of taking your life. What does that mean across board? And why is it that it's different for others who just contemplate and let it at that, and different for others who contemplate and, eventually they execute it?
Yeah, first of all, I need to say that dying by suicide is a very sad thing. Probably that is the worst that could happen to humanity, because ultimately life belongs to God, to our Creator. However, people will get to that level because of probably who they are. Life has never been a straight line, and it will never be. Certainly, we shall go through bumps, and many problems of life. And all of us are vulnerable in one way or another. But what will make the difference is first who the person is. What do I tell myself, for instance, as Jane? Is there hope? When I get to the end of my road, would I stop and think of asking for a way out from anyone who cares to listen?
Right.
So some people are, find it easier to contact, to consult, to talk out even about what they feel. But others, because of their own individuality, their unique, personalities, they will just give in. They give in and they sit there, and to them darkness has come and there's no light anywhere, not even in that tunnel. There's no end to it. So the kind of support system that a person has is very important, critically important, other than what I tell myself. Some of us are more resilient than others. Some of us have higher tolerance, others have lower tolerance. And because of all that, which is not really something that one makes up for themselves, some people give in much easier than others. And they see the end has come, and when the end comes, what next? I just give in and get off this system of life.
Well, interestingly, today we want to just have ample time to discuss this, even as we share our stories. And we just want to look at the unusual things that you'd want to look at. For instance, we have scenarios where when someone, probably chooses that path of committing suicide, and maybe they're not lucky enough to die. I'm sorry to use this statement. The next place that you're taking them is, in court, in jail, and all that. Why is it that you wanted to commit suicide? It's a crime for you to attempt suicide and all that. And the biggest question would be: is it fair to take these individuals that probably wanted to commit suicide to such, we'll probably get to answers into that, or we'll get to delve deep into that and get answers of the same. I don't know whether I'm allowed to engage Juakali and Eustace. Eustace, good morning. Kwa salama?
Kabisa, nashukuru.
All right. Yes. What brings you here today? Now that I said Eustace has a nice story, I'd want for you to probably confirm that.
Yes, I have a nice story because where I am right now, I consider it God, and probably I've been lucky to be here. And yes, I have a nice story to give about that. It's been a roller coaster of things in life, but altogether is that right now I can encourage someone: do not die or wish to die, because at the end of the day, there's a light coming.
Have you wished to die before? Have you wished to commit suicide before?
Yes, and at that time it was the only thing that was enjoyable or fulfilling to do because of the things that I was going through. Yeah. So it's something I've encountered in my life. And I know when you want to die, you don't see any other hope, or you don't even want to be stopped, because you're thinking, if I'm dead, then all this will not be there, and probably I'll be happy sleeping somewhere and not feeling the pain that I'm feeling right now.
How many times have you tried this?
It was a moment when I was really low, and probably I'll be able to explain when. So it was a moment, a duration of a time that I was going through the hardest period of my life.
At what age? Had you family? Did you have family at that point? Were you alone, or?
This was exactly after I completed high school.
Right.
And you see, no, not high school, primary.
Okay.
And between my primary school to my high school, I had 4 years to stay away without school, because there was no school fees for me. There was no hope for me to join Form 1. So between these 4 years, because I left class 7, and then I had to do all the manual work, mijengo, I had to do shamba boys and stuff like that. Those 4 years were the hell of my time, Because again, remember, you're out of school and you don't even have upkeep, parents to support you. Actually, they are depending on me, on the small money I get from the mijengo, from the vibarua. So that was the time I felt, at some point I felt I don't really need to leave, because I didn't have people, I didn't have mentors, and here you are, you can't feed yourself. Your parents are depending on the shilling that you make from the mijengo. So that's the period I felt, why am I even leaving, was I supposed to suffer? So at that particular time I felt if I could die, probably I wouldn't be going through this. And remember, I got ulcers even without knowing that what I was suffering from was ulcers. Yes. Because I got into thinking a lot, and I had so much hope and desires to join Form 1. And I'll give that. So it's something that came later on, but it was a struggle for me.
All right, indeed, a struggle right there. Interestingly, the people who are most vulnerable to this, the teenagers, it's not being echoed out so much so, but some of us who are in this industry or in this profession have had the privilege to speaking to a couple of them, and you realize that the numbers are pretty much on a rise. That's statistically proven as well. And maybe as parents or as oldies, we tend to ignore that, because we tend to look at their problems as though they are just simple problems. Well, umekosa tu kwenda shule ndio unalia. Kuna wenye hawajaenda hata from primary. So we probably do not take time, or we're not keen enough to listen to them and to know what they're going through and whether they have actually gotten to levels of contemplating a suicide. So before we even delve into that, Jua Kali is here already, a legendary artist. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Shukran sana.
Karibu zaidi. Okay, well, you know what, before ufike, we have listened to Maisha ni Panda Shuka.
Yes.
And I'd want to assume, I don't know, you will tell us, the moment you probably started music, ulianza tu because you felt like, uko mtaani na maboys and it's working out right, and then kuna hiyo place ya kuproduce ngoma, and then uko na kasauti hivi, and then uko na lyrics, and then you did that. And a couple of times it was received well, music was resonating with the people. It got to levels where people now resonate with the kind of music that you were singing. And as you grow into this, you now get to levels where you speak of what is happening in society. Maybe based on experience, maybe based on friends' experience and all that. What got you into writing Maisha ni Panda Shuka?
The reason I wrote Panda Shuka was when COVID started, actually. I was getting so many messages, especially on social media, on my direct messages. Guys telling me they have no rent. Guys telling me bibi yangu ameniacha kwa sababu sina pesa. Guys telling me I want food. There was a lady hata alidm mara kadhaa telling me yani mtoto wangu analala njaa, tunalala njaa and everything. So from the messages I could formulate a song. Niliona from hizi messages napata, it was only right for me to write Panda Shuka, so that I could talk to the whole world, telling them easy experiences mnapitia amzipiti peke yenu. I also touched on suicide on the song, and on the actual video, the guy who was trying to commit suicide, he realized he had another talent of football. Okay. So the reason alikaa, he wanted kujirusha, he was like hapana. Akaona, he saw a billboard where they were telling guys, kama uko na talent ya football, come and try trials. So even though jamaa akujirusha. So basically, Panda Shuka, I'm just talking about life as it is right now, what guys are going through. I was also talking to artists, telling them in your time ya invest wisely, ndo pia usi get depression, ukuje ujiue. Yes.
Jua Kali, you agree with me that briefly too on that aspect of investment, and I'm glad that you've raised the angle of artists and how it's tough. And I'd want to equate that industry to what it is that we are in the media industry. reality is that the world looks at you, and actually that's why many people maybe DM'd you, because they felt like, you know what, for Jua Kali it's a complete life, you know.
Yeah.
They probably forget that at this point maybe COVID-19 has hit you hard, no performances, no nini. They assume that you have it all fixed.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really want to invest, but there's genuinely nothing much, or you know, whatever it is that you have, nearly hand to mouth to keep you moving, and there's no way you can invest. And people get to levels whereby they realize that, all right, so the money is not coming anymore. I have not invested. I have not done anything. You wonder whether you're going to blame yourself or just exactly what.
Okay, you can blame yourself, but that won't change anything. So as the lady mentioned, she talked about support system. So for us we took a different route, because we had a support system from our parents. My friends call me Paul, they don't call me Jua Kali. Nikifanya makosa wananiambia we wacha mchezo. My mom always calls akiuliza where's the new song, vitu kama hizo. So when you have a support system, the blame game, you will mkona crew, mkona squad ya ku blame each other, ya kusema wewe ukufanya hivyo, kufanya hivi, sasa tuamke, we push on. But when you do it on your own, especially kuna artists wengi sana who decide to follow their career on their own, hawana managers and everything, but hiyo support system ndio itakustop. Ukigo astray, your friends tells you, wanakuambia we wacha mchezo, kaa hapa, wacha tufanye hivi. So for me, blame game haijawahi kuwa. We don't, kwa sababu we have a squad.
Well, it's above everything, they will say it's not always about money. We're back to you, Mbogwa. Yes. And I guess we're jumping this a little bit too fast. And we speak of the support system briefly. And like Jua Kali says, you hit his DM to tell him how you're struggling. He has his own fair share of troubles. How do we derive a support system that works for us? For him, Eustace was pretty much young. You know, at that age, you tentatively expect your parents to be your support system. They're the very same people who are coming to you to enjoy the little that you have made. How, within ourselves, are we able to set up support systems that would work for us, despite the fact that every of us could be having their fair share of troubles?
That's a very good question, and I want to thank Jua Kali for the insight that he shared. To me, I think the most important and probably the number one support system is myself. Because if I don't believe in myself, if I lose hope, if I don't know my ability, then it's very easy for me to lose this person called Bugo Mombi. And therefore, probably whatever else people try to extend to me as support may be in vain. Because I always tell people that there are four most important resources in this world to help you succeed. The four most important resources. And of course, the first one is God, because He's the one who created you. Just like you plant a seed in the soil, and the seed taps its nutrients from the soil, because it was created from the soil. So the awareness about God as a support system is very essential in our lives. And not just in terms of faith or believing. It is in terms of knowing. Because when you're planting a seed in the soil, it's not just the seed believing I can grow and can be supported by the soil. You know, this is my source. This is my God. So God becomes very essential. And it is important for me to mention this with all due respect, that we need to differentiate between God and religion. Because God gives us the ultimate. The second most important support system, probably, and I mentioned that already, is me, myself. That if I destroy myself, if I lose hope in myself, like Jua Kali said, if I'm in the wrong squad, it will destroy me. So I need to ask myself, who are my friends and what value do they have in my life? To what extent are they supporting me to ensure that I am following the right track to my success? And of course, the other support system which is critical, and I will come to the family as well, is people. Watu ndio mali what would you marry? That I realize, with all due respect, everything that you need in this world, everything practically, what I own today, what you have today, up to this moment, what your Kari has, what Eustace has, what Madam Gitonga has, everything that we have came from people. And everything that we'll ever desire in our future, our tomorrow, whether it is a car, a wife, children, anything, property, wealth, they will all come from people.
Right.
The car you drive came from somebody, and there was an exchange. So it is very important for us to appreciate that. Of course, I also need to emphasize the importance of the family support system. Because if you ask me, I think the primary challenge, the root cause is that the social fabric, the family bond has loosened. There's a lot of individualism. Even for siblings, there is rivalry, there is unhealthy competition, there is jealousy, there is hatred. Sometimes even between children and their parents, there is minimal communication.
Right.
There is minimal bonding. How often do you speak with your parents? We parents, my son is here. How often do I speak with them? How often? I need to realize that as a parent, I am the mentor. As a parent, and I like what he said, I am the first manager to my children. In terms of, imparting them with the skills that they need to manage these challenges. Unfortunately, and this is really, really the depth of it, unfortunately, most of us parents don't have the skills. So we are very poor managers of our own children. We extend a very poor, ineffective support system because we also are not skilled. But it's also important for me to say this, besides, of course, your parents, and this is important for parents to appreciate. Because how many of us meet regularly with our children? How many of us have useful family meetings, productive family meetings? Sometimes we meet once a year because we have this Christmas holiday.
Right.
We meet once in a year. And actually, most unfortunately, even when we meet this once in a year, there are no family issues addressed. There are no critical life issues addressed.
Hold it right there. and probably to loop in Jane on this matter.
Yes.
How then do we derive these mechanisms of making sure that we are available, that we're talking to our children, and worlds apart? And I can tell you, even in as much as maybe Joakali tells us that the mom is constantly following up to know music, probably it took her a while to resonate with the kind of music he sings. Probably it took her a while to accept the fact that, oh, my son is venturing into music, and maybe music is going to pay. Those days, probably it was just for fun, and it appeared that maybe music would not pay as much. And I have seen parents that have struggled with their own children. Don't go this direction, go to this direction. The generational gaps. Today, I'll tell you for free, however much my mom can resonate with me, there's a whole lot of things that I feel like, she does not have an idea at all. So how do you get yourselves to those moments where, you can understand what this person is going through, you can step in to advise, you can step in to be part and parcel of their life, such that they will not get to levels where they have these negative minds, or they feel like, this person is totally not in touch with me.
Well, that's a very important observation there. Before I get to the issue of parenting, allow me to talk about personal, building personal capacity.
Okay.
Because when the parents do, their things, then the person will still remain an individual at some point. There is something that we call talk therapy. Talk therapy is that talking to oneself, asking oneself, what do I want? When we talk about where Joakali started, he knew what he wanted, but the parents had no idea of what he wanted until he did his thing. And now it came out that, well, there seemed to be sense here, and we need to give him support to move on. So what one tells themselves, that ability to focus on what I want and go for it is very important. Never mind, I could hit a wall. I could hit even a very big bump. But that doesn't stop me from driving.
Right.
Ideally, we keep going, because life is like being on a highway. And if you stopped on the highway, chances are very high you'll be knocked, or you'll knock someone, and that will be an accident on the highway. So it is very important that we focus, we idealize, and we make it happen what we want. But also expressing the same to others who care to listen. Could be our parents. But to talk of now parenting, unfortunately we don't have a school of parenting. The parent wants the best for their children. And because we don't have a manual, every parent have to look for the way, you know, out of everything. So what I suggest for parents is they bring up their children so that we don't end up in this kind of mess we are talking about. Dying by suicide, as we began saying, is the worst that could happen. But why would it happen? Because probably this person was not nurtured. They were not supported by that parent who is the first teacher of every child. And ideally, home is the first school for everyone. And whatever we have now, somehow the roots can be traced back to our parenting. So parents, stay with your children. And staying with your children does not mean you will not work, you will not get out. But that quality time, we actually talk of quality time as opposed to quantity time. Quantity time won't help. It's possible that I spend the whole day in my house. Never mind, I have adolescents. They're in the university, so they do their things, I don't mind. But still, we need that quality time once in a while. We need to sit. We need to have that family MOU or MOA and talk things.
You know, I will come back to probably understand the triggers of suicide or you know, the triggers of depression. To what level does it get? And then you realize that I am officially stressed and this is going to a level of depression. Because, you know, at the very same family unit, there are instances where we've had, you know, this family has a history of people committing suicide. And therefore the uncle committed suicide, and then there are likelihoods that the nephews, the nieces, the son to this uncle will commit suicide. That one gets us a little bit confused, but it's happening. You find that in one family, maybe you are two, three, four have committed suicide. Historically, unasikia 50 years back, nasikianga uncle yao, grandmother yao wali commit suicide. So before we come to the triggers of the same, we probably just get looped into the story of Eustace. Kidogo. Eustace.
Yes. So my story starts when I am just after I'm done with class 8. And she has, just like any other boy, you have hopes of a bright, very bright future. And I had done well in my primary school, but then we couldn't get the money to go to high school. A few years later, my mom got married to this man who is a good man, and they moved from. We used to live in Juja, so they have to move now from town to Gishagi, the way we do in our. In our culture as men, ukioa bibi nafereka, bibi mzuri ni ule ako nyumbani. But from that point, life changes. Everything changes. We used to live a very good life with mom, and she was working. I was getting everything I needed. But now, for the virtue of being married, she had to go and now be a mom and a wife back at home. So when you go there, everything changes. There's no flow of income that like we used to have. And now I have changed to another school, which is in the rural areas. I completed the education in primary school, but then it was a struggle because everything changed. When you're not working, and I think this is something that even the young parents need to consider, or those people who are getting married. Like, you don't have to do the things the way they were done before. If you can be together and be able to put things together, have an income in Nairobi, wherever you're living. You don't have to take your wife to Gishagi, because that's something, if I was to change, that's something I would do. I would say that contributed to our struggles. Because when you go there and income goes down, your kids are not able to get as good life as they would have gotten when they were in town, or wherever you get your income from. So we go there, I am done with this school, and I need to go to Form 1. The next year comes and you're hoping you can go, it doesn't happen, another year, and then now after staying like 2 years, of course you can't just stay home. I started doing now Vibarua, Mijengo and all that. And remember, my number one frustration was my dream has been shattered.
Right. And
I think one of the triggers, as you said, would be now when you're frustrated, the shattering of dreams. So you're thinking now, the future that you'd seen is now not there. So I came to Thika and I started doing I got a job in some place. I was selling, it was a shop, and I was getting about 1,800, and I came to join my aunt in Thika. The other blunder and a blessing, because I have learned from it, is that I joined an auntie who is single and has never raised a child. So you can imagine the pressure also, living with another person in your own house. So I got a lot of also stress from that, because you see, she has her own issues. I am here as a burden or another added cost. So we couldn't really live like, a very good life. So I started having pressure after pressure. And this job that I'm having, remember, if you're having 1,800 a month, if you deduct whatever you're deducting, you're giving back home, it was like nothing totally. So I kept struggling and struggling and struggling. From that job, I got another one in a place called Landless. It is in Thika still. This one was a shamba boy, which was a bit better for me, in a Mzungu's home, where my job was to come in the morning, clear. They had very big dogs, the German Shepherds. So my job was to come and clear the messes. Dogs, big dogs, and the way they eat, they can really mess up the whole night. So I was to come and make sure the compound is clean before they wake up. There's no mess around. And then after I'm done with that, I go to their small farm. I start doing my farming there. Mm-hmm. So remember, I still have dreams. I'm still seeing my friends prospering, going to Form 2 now, going to Form 3 now. And I'm like, what did I do? Should I have been born in a different family? Mm-hmm. So the thoughts of I am not worth kept on coming and coming and coming. And I know that's what happens when you're there. You feel like one of the things that make you feel like you want to die is when you feel like you're an isolated case. I am the only person, because your friends, some of them you had done better than them, are now in Form 3, talking about physics and titillation, those things that you hear them talk about. You still meet with them, yeah, and you hear terminologies that you never had in primary, and you're like, wow, I'm different. So you start even isolating yourself from them, because whenever you're with them, they're talking to you stuff that you probably haven't you've never had, yeah. So I kept on feeling I'm not worthy. Every time I'm with the dogs cleaning and making them clean, I'm feeling this where I am with the dogs and all that. Your friends are now completing high school. So that's the time now with my aunt, I considered killing myself. And I remember, because again, I was having too much stress, and I don't blame her, with living with her. Because you see, this is an auntie, she's also young, and you hear as a man, she has a life to live, you have interrupted her life. So I could just walk out of the house before even dinner. Nikifika tu kwa hao, I do the cleaning. Sometimes I just walk. It was in Makongeni. And I'm thinking, nikijirusha kwa gari, na nikikunywa dawa, na at some point unatoka tu hata usiku. There's a time I left at 12 and I wanted to just go and die. But I think when God has a plan for you, those things will never come to you. Wow.
Hold it right there. We'll come back to that. Juhali, maisha ni panda shuka can lazily be said.
Yes.
Mtu anaweza sema tu maisha. And even right from childhood, tunapata nyimbo, was it Billy Abel who was singing, Jua maisha ni mlima. And until it dawns on you, it does not make sense.
Yeah.
There are many people who, it dawns on and they realize that, wow, now it's time to wake up, smell the coffee, and try different angles. Yeah. There are some that can totally not wake up. Yeah. Let's speak to these people. And I mean, evidently this time of COVID-19, it has happened to very many people. True. And I'm sure it has happened to you. Yeah. And so you're here, no gigs, no nothing. This was the only source of income. Yeah. Just how do you get yourself off the hook? Just what is this one miracle that one can do to stay afloat?
There is a statement which says, you can't heal what you don't reveal.
Okay. Speak out.
Me? Yeah. So basically, ukiumwa na meno, naturally, utakimbia hosi. Uende waambie daktari, daktari namuona. We do it easily. Kwenda hospitali, we do it very fast. Daktari namuona kichwa. Umereveal kitu nakusumbua, daktari atakutibu. So it's the same thing na life ikikugonga. When you share, ukishare to the next person, mwambie, uko na pressure hiyo naturally umepunguza hiyo pressure by half.
Jokali, aibu na stigma wewe sahi the level at which you are in kwa society and I'll tell you for free, artists wanafikanga mpaka mwisho.
Yes, asa ndio nasema yani that's what I'm talking about,
right?
Reveal, just tell, usiogope. Hiyo ndio najaribu kusema, whether ni stigma, whether ulikuwa popular ukaanguka, ni important kushare. Hapo ndo mali, especially sisi men, hapo ndo mali si uanguka. Si ujifanya haikitwa sitaki kushare, mwanaume ni kujikaza. But ni important ukifika mahali unaona hii kitu inaenda kuwa noma, it's very very important to share. The same way tunaenda tu hosi kuambia daktari, ndo the same way share with your neighbor, share kama tu uko shule, share with your teacher, unaona, share with your friends. Niko kwa noma, you never know, they will help you.
That's true.
So ni important sana kuongea. That's the secret. Just share your problems.
That's what wengi sana hawajui. Is it that counselors don't tell us? Some of us are not even lucky enough to go and meet counselors. And to be honest, I'll tell you, I personally speak a lot. And sometimes people look at me as though that, sasa wewe unatuambia kila kitu yako bana. Hauna filters, hauna nini ama nini. But it helps a lot. Sometimes you don't even know whether it's going to help you, but it just helps because you've shared it off. But not everybody has the confidence. Not everybody understands the importance of sharing. That you know what, when you come out to speak about this, well, you would be condemned, you would be laughed at, but eventually you're going to come out of this with a solution. Jane?
True. We are living in times where people don't listen anymore. I like what Juakali has said, talk it out. That is called talk therapy. It is extremely therapeutic.
Okay. And
because people are busy, it is not possible that you stop anyone and start telling them your stories and your dilemma and shida, you know, evil. But if you can find someone that you trust, talk to them, tell them this is how life is. I've just hit a wall and it's painful, I'm hurting. Just that talking lets out emotions. And when our emotions are out there, it doesn't bother us anymore.
Okay.
We are less, the burden. The burden gets lighter, just as we say. A problem shared, is a burden reduced by something. So that is very important, but we need to trust the person so that we don't feel like they would betray us, they would talk about us all over. So that is critical. But of course, the reason why now professional help has come in counselors, in psychologists, is because the world is moving too fast, faster than some of us can cope.
We are told that psychologists, counselors are extremely expensive. And so people shy away. And sometimes you feel like, you know what, there are so many of them in pastors, there are so many of them in our parents. And so you're just thinking, going to a professional counselor will just be telling the same story and probably I'll just get the same story again back. That does not help.
Really? Juakali said, I'll make a lot of reference to you, sir.
Yeah.
We go to doctors.
Okay.
We know that they will pay. There's consultation fee. But if that is what you make the difference in my life, why not?
Why not?
Because my life and my peace and my health are definitely more important than any money that I may pay. So the same with counseling psychologists, this is a professional engagement. But I wouldn't agree that it is extremely expensive. By the way, counseling psychologists will also give where they realize the person needs help and they cannot pay for the service. Right. So let no one shy away from the service. And it helps. Because the same thing they'll come and tell me, I'll listen to the story. The difference is I'll pay undivided attention.
Okay.
And I'll help the person even to trace the root of the problem. When we talk about people getting depressed, because this is where the story begins. Surely nobody needs to get there. Why should we go down with a mood disorder that actually could have been sorted out long
So it's
ago.
possible to stop this occurrence.
Absolutely.
You know, I wish Nelly was really here. I have had a chance to speak to her, and I don't think I should be speaking about her story, but on several occasions she's told me, you know what, I have a psychologist, I have a psychiatrist, I don't know who and who. She shares these stories, and to her it appears as though these are the very same people who've gotten her to worse levels. And therefore I'd ask this question: just how important is it to seek professional help at a point where you feel like, you know what, because you feel, according to her, she's okay, but you know, now she has to be treated to a psychologist who will now say, you know what, I'll refer you to a psychiatrist, who will now, you know, lamp her up with lots of medicine and all that. And it appears like, you know, years down, really nothing much is changing.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. I am sure that, and I think I've seen that in Jane, we also challenged as psychologists, psychiatrists, life coaches, and counselors to try and offer a solution that is practical in terms of helping these victims come out of their challenges. I don't know how best to put it, but I would rather dare say this. There are some problems also, like you said earlier. You know, you alluded to a situation where in a family, they have been having, for example, suicides over the years, that their grandfather, their great-grandfather, their father. And I would dare say this, in life, there are no accidents.
Okay.
In life, there are no accidents. And there are no incidences. This world is complete, and it has God has the order of things. If you're driving along the road, and for whatever reason your car stalls, don't call it an accident. It's not an accident. Okay. There's a specific reason. There's a specific law of nature that you defied, which brought your car to stall. Whether it is we call it accident. So there are things I personally believe, and everybody doesn't have to believe with me, that they have something to do with the lineage of that family. I would rather see this, and this doesn't have to be believed. It has something probably to do with something your great-grandfather did, something to do with the culture. And it is all over. And that is why sometimes you try medicine, it is not working. You try counseling, it's not working. I don't know. Let me give a specific example, if you allow me. And I know some of us don't believe in these things. Like, say, for example, your grandfather left a word to you. You should never, and I know this is common in the African culture.
Yes.
Hata ukizaa kijana usimuite jina yangu. Usimuite jina yangu. I mean, naturally. And we don't need the law of science to understand this. He can commit suicide. He will. And the counselor will not help. And the life coach will not help. And the prayer will not help.
Oh.
It will not help.
All right.
But we don't want to address this issue. It will
And
not
anyone
help.
can come in on this one.
Because this is a curse. Hii ni laana iliachwa. Imeachwa na babu, ameiacha. Imeachwa na shosho, ameiacha. And until, for example, a very simple example, you beat your mother. Mlipigana na mamako, ukamchapa, ukamtusi, hata ukamtoa damu.
It will never
Give me one counselor who can change that in this world. Give me one prayer, my brother, who can change that.
Everyone is at liberty to engage on this.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And this is my strong belief.
Okay.
And I'm actually not speaking from a position of belief.
Okay.
I'm speaking from a position of knowledge. Yes. So there are many things as counselors that we can help our people with. For example, maybe somebody is contemplating suicide because the girlfriend ditched him. But that's not a cultural issue, of course. So we can come in and help and let them realize maybe you are not meant for this. And I think what I'm saying is this. Number one, let's emphasize that it's okay to have suicidal mind. Even some of the greatest, most sought after celebrities and successful people, the Oprah Winfreys, the Chris Kirubis of this world, at some point they contemplated this, but they didn't do it because they realized there's another solution. I'll give a practical example here. My son is here. We went to buy, groceries in a market. It was a rainy day and the soil was very soggy. So I love melon, the fruit. Mm-hmm. So as I was, we bought some melon, put it in some plastic piece of paper. As we were going back to the car, the paper snapped from the bottom. And what happened? The melon came out and started drawing, in mud. And it was very dirty. And of course, I thought, let's do away with it. Right. And of course, we will always remember my wife who told me, excuse me, why should we leave it? The dirt is only external. It's not percolated inside. And I think this is a message we would also want to bring out to people who are contemplating suicide. It's not over. Whatever God created you to be is still within you. If the shell of an egg is dirty, an eggshell is dirty, juakali, it doesn't mean that egg can't hatch and give us a chick.
It will.
Because the yolk inside is still fresh. So the power within us, the value that God has instilled in us, the ability that is in us is untouched. We still have that. If the shell is dirty, people will criticize it. Like someone was saying, and I like that. People will criticize it. They will condemn you. They will judge you harshly. But you must realize success is personal. You are created individually by God. And if people, somebody's opinion about who I am shouldn't affect me, by the way. It shouldn't affect me. If I know who I am Mbogo Mumbi, I believe in this, I do ABCD. If you think you have a different opinion about me, excuse me, that is your opinion.
What does it take for us to get to levels, Bogo, what does it take for us to get to levels where we know ourselves, are strong enough, and are confident that really somebody else's opinion does not count to us? Let's take a quick breather and take it on that very note after this break. Back to the broadcast. We still are having this crucial conversation right here in studio. As earlier mentioned, it is that week where we create awareness on matters suicide, and we say, reach out to this one person, because at that one point when you reach out, you could save their life. Speak out is one thing that we are also advocating for. It's all right to have the troubles of life. It's all right, to feel like you'd want to commit suicide. But you know what? It's equally way all right when you speak out. You don't necessarily have to get the solution to your problem at that particular point. But whoever said this, and I repeat, whoever said this, that a problem shared is a problem half solved, was not stupid. This could not make sense to you, but if you tried once, then you'd probably understand where all this is coming from. And so as we look at the aspect of suicide, remember, it all starts from the point of stress, depression, and mental illness. And at this point of COVID-19, we have no choice but to constantly speak about this. You probably could be undergoing depression, but you have zero idea whether it is the case. Seek medical advice, seek professional advice. It will come a long way in making you a better person in future. And still in studio, Mbogo Mumbi, life coach. And of course, we also have Jane Gatia, who's a counselor. We have Juakali, legendary artist. And we have Eustace Nderitu, CEO, Solani Tours, a person with a great story. He speaks of where he came from. And you know what, looking at him and what he's doing right now, one would actually think, wash ni ukweli. One would actually think that, uchawi ni ukweli. One would actually also think and understand and know that hard work pays, that believe that, soldiering on is pretty much crucial. Technically, the gospel that we're spreading this morning. And back to you, back to your story, Eustace. Fast forward.
Yes. So here I am, and I got a job from the Mzungu. I've done the Shamba Boy, as I said, and all this time you're still in prayers. I used to be a very staunch Christian that time. I think I think then the reason Africa knew are so good Christian is because the poverty that you go through, the only solution you get sometimes is in God. Mbogo Mumbi is one of the life coach that I love so much. I've worked with him where I used to work. And I know when he says sometimes there are situations that prayers will not help, which is true. When you curse your parent, you don't expect much. But for me, I used to cry to God, and I think that helped a lot. And I would encourage someone who is contemplating dying, consider kneeling down and asking God a few questions. Instead of thinking of it's the end of the day, it's the end of my life, think of how, talk to God. There's a solution of comfort that comes with that. So I am done with the job, because now I couldn't continue like that. I'm growing. And now I need to do something with my life. Someone proposes that I do driving. I think that was an upgrade of Shamba Boy. So and someone tells me there's sponsorship on those who want to do driving.
Yeah.
That time ilikuwa stadium ya Thika. So you go there, you'll find people taking people and helping them to do driving school. And that was not help for me. Another one proposes that I do carpentry. And all the solutions I'm getting from people were not helping me. Okay. So fast forward, I leave that job and I go back home. And this time now I'm jobless kidogo. But before I left, the Mzungu that I was working for had a sister who was in America. You see, these are Mzungu, and the people who are coming from abroad. So the time they came, that week that I was leaving, I spent a whole week with them. And I was so good with it. They had kids and all that. I was taking care of the kids after I've done with all my work. And that is where I got my sponsorship to go to school from. So I went to school. I went to high school. I completed high school. I went to campus. And from campus now, my life kind of changed, because now the passion I had for tourism, I was able to pursue it. I got employed.
Take it slow. Wacha turudi hapo kwa kurudi high school. I don't understand how 4-5 years you're away from school and then unasema tu ulipita high school ni kama tu it was just that easy kuingia shule na kuweza kujua sijui nini. I can't even remember what I schooled. I just remember logarithm. What was introduced to me in Form 1. It can never be that easy. So ulirudi ukarepeat class 8 ama uliendelea Form 1?
Sasa after nimemaliza, nimepata sponsorship sasa. Remember nimekaa nje 4 years. Niko nadi na kutu ya. 4 whole years you've been away, you've been doing all these kind of jobs. And again, I am now older than the people I'm going. My number one struggle, even when I was going back to class, to Form 1, is that nasoma na watu niliacha class 4. So the stigma started there. Yeah. And again, nisha grow kidogo, wale wako class 4 hawana ndevu, mimi niko na ndevu za kuhandle. So nakumbuka I used to even live, nilikuwa boarding ya. I used to live naamka mapema by 3 ndio ninyoe tu ndevu kiasi, ile stigma niache kukaa. Kuna mzai fulani yako kwa class. So it was a struggle, I would say that, but I was given the opportunity. My dreams are now turning to be true. Remember where I'm coming from, you used to be told there's light at the end of the tunnel. But when you're in that situation, even the tunnel itself haikuangi, like you can't even see the tunnel itself. Yeah. So it wasn't easy for me. So I went to Form 1. I was given the task of looking for the school I want. I started with the school called, I think, Broadway in Thika. I went to another one. My story was different. We were telling people, I want to come, anakushia makaratasi, wanaona ulimaliza shule, sijui lini. Even the principal is like, have you been a thug or something? Where were you? Were you in jail or something? So you have to give your story over and over. Right. It wasn't easy to do that.
Wow, Jokali, there you go. As you react to that and society. And the truth is that, it's hard for you to just say, nilikuwa nje 4 years nimerudi. Na watu wakose kuangalia with those eyes, 4 years nje kuna kitu tuambie hapa katikati. It's hard for them to understand that it was tough on my end, but here we are. You just have to always give this the story. You have to justify yourself in the presence of society, and that's what we're going through up until that. I can tell you this, Jokali, I'm sure you just can't walk lazily. Society will judge you. Society will question you. And therefore you always have to go back to society and explain to society, unajua ni hivi ndio kuko, usichukulie hivyo, sijui nini. How do we get ourselves to that moment where we say it's about me? Forget about society, however much we are public figures, however much, we are products of society.
Yeah. There was this childhood friend of mine.
Yeah.
Alikuwa anaenda kuwatch movies peke yake. So nilikuwa namuuliza, kwani hata uendi na manzi yako?
Oh. Okay.
Kwani hata uendi na friends, hata your girlfriend? Akasema, najitreat.
Wow.
I'm treating myself. Najipenda. Unaona?
Yeah.
So our dreams, society at times hawat understand. Unaona? Kama kuna watu walikuwa wanatuambia sisi bado ni vijana, we are maybe 3 years into the music industry and everything. Walikuwa wanasema hii muziki si sustainable. After some time mtaacha.
Yeah.
but sisi mimi nilikuwa najua hii ni kitu very easy for me, hii ni kitu naweza fanya my lifetime,
the rest of time, yeah.
Unaona, so the only way ningeweza kuprove huyu mtu wrong ni doing it. Si need kumconvince taifanya life yangu yote, si need hata kumconvince. I just do it kwa sababu niko na confidence in myself, najiamini, najipenda. Unaona, sio ndio reason nimesema this friend of mine yule alikuwa anaenda kujitreat. So our dreams, society, kwanza sisi sahi na mambo za social media,
right.
Kuna so much discouragement. We wacha hiyo muziki si poa nini. But when you are fully focused, kama tu yani buda hiyo noma. Yani alirudi shule na bado alikuwa too focused. Kwa sababu basically this is about you now.
Right. True.
This is just nini mimi. If I don't take care of myself, hakuna mtu atanichunga.
That's true.
It's about me. So it's really important just to have that confidence kabisa. Yes, na that's the only way. Hata ukifikiria kujiua utaona lakini najipenda, seriously. Mimi najipenda, tajiuaje najipenda. So if you just love yourself, yani truly kabisa, sidhani kama utafika that point.
Well said. Brings us to that point yenye tulimaliza before we went for break, and just getting to that point where you know yourself, you know your worth, and you know that this is me, and therefore you fight towards making you a better person. You struggle towards making you a person that is, going to be acknowledged by society, because however much we want to rule it out, somehow there's always that pleasure and there's always that comfort that comes along with pleasing the eyes of society. Jane.
Very important that one focuses on loving themselves. There's something we call self-esteem, kujijaza. As in, I know I'm important. It doesn't really matter what, for instance, Bogu Amombi. Actually, I don't know what you think of me. But you see, you said yourself, it doesn't matter. So it's a question of, before society comes to tell me, I need to have told myself, I need to have, filled the gaps they are in. And things like, go for it, attempt it, I know I'm good, all that description of myself, which is part of my self-concept, is very important. Society won't love anyone if one hates themselves. Society will never say anything positive, for instance, about Jane Gatia, unless I've told myself that I'm good, I am powerful, I am strong, and it's not about delusions. It's not about just imaginations in the wilderness. It is the truth, and that truth will be actualized. So people need to know in society, who cares much about you? Why don't you care for yourself? And then the world will come surrounding you. And that's why you see that people who are successful, people who have good education, and so on, and people who are doing well, even in terms of their investments and business, they have people who want, they attract. It's kind of like they have a magnet. I'm sure Juakari has a crowd around him. I'm part of the crowd, by the way, now. Don't look at my age, I could be following you as well. So because you have already shown the world and proved to the world that you can do it, and you love yourself, and you know that you exist for a reason, and you are focused to achieve certain goals, they'll come even to support you, even when you don't ask for that support, amazingly. And that's where we need to be. If we all did the same, chances are very high that we don't even have to have these many cases of suicide. They can be reduced, depression, mood disorders, distress, anxieties, and what have you. We have too many things that are eating up society. And that's why we are ending up in that mess. Life could be hard, yes. Life has never been easy for anyone. But we can't make it any more hard. In any case, we have the capacity to rise above the tide.
That's true.
That's just a tide, that's just a wind, it's just a storm, but we can always, by the way, we are created, all of us, and this is important for society to know, that you and I are created with the special capacity and ability to overcome any hurdles. The reason is because we have something we call creative thinking. We can be able to think outside the box. I don't have to feel like I'm in a cage, like all doors are locked and keys lost and all that. So we can always look for that hole. It could be just a small hole, but so long as I can drill through there and get out, the world out there is so wide that I can't even finish the space.
All right, well, they say the cake is so big, the world is so wide, you can't finish it on your own. As Alia mentioned, we're also expecting Nelly Kidake, who's already here with us. Good morning, Nelly, how are you? Salimia watu, as you briefly speak about, because you already know or you're conversant with what it is that we're talking about. We are talking about depression and, mental health, disorders. And importantly, we are focusing on matters suicide at a point where, as the world, we are creating awareness. So it's Suicide Awareness Week. Probably share a story. Have you had a friend who has, gotten to levels where they appear as though they would want to commit suicide? Have they gotten to such levels? Did they ever communicate to you and told you, what, I feel like I'm not okay? What steps did you take? What angles did you approach to make sure that at least this person realizes that the world is quite huge for them to, even imagine of filling up this space? Kindly use the microphone.
Good morning, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late. My name is Nelly Kidake, as you've been told. I would say I have had several friends, but besides that, I have been a victim of that. I think my first time to try it was when I was in high school, and it was because of a stupid thing. It's because I failed mathematics, and my teacher kind of did not understand me, and I was suspended, and my parents could not understand that. But lately, above it all, one thing I came to realize, the society does not understand when such a thing happens, because when somebody communicates, it doesn't just begin from nowhere. At times, I feel like, first of all, when you have a friend or a family and you realize they're doing things that are not normal, first of all, understand, try to get and reach out. The latest one would have been maybe last month, and I was very upset at myself. I was all alone, because at this point I can tell you for sure I don't have friends at all, and it is because I decided to keep to myself, because I realized all my friends are not understanding me, and instead of them coming out and reaching out to me, they would go and discuss me. And they would go and say, she's upset, she's doing some things that are not in order. And then my family would just come in and take me to a psychiatric unit. Mm. So at one point I felt very bad, because 1 minute I'm very okay, the next minute I'm not fine, I'm not feeling fine. When I try to talk to somebody, they don't understand me, even the doctors themselves, because I would discuss with them and ask them, I'm looking at my profession, do you think I am a psychic person? I'm an accountant by profession. But I get here, immediately, unadungwa sindano, and you're nuts. I have been on medication from last year in October. And unfortunately, the medication is not helping me, but it gets me worse, because I realized the moment I take the medication, immediately, maybe you will pass out, maybe you will want to sleep, maybe you are dozing. And family still doesn't understand. And I've carried part of the medication with me because it reached a point I told myself no. And I reached out to my friend and told her. She was shocked because I told her I go to hospital for a whole week. I don't have my phone. Nobody is talking to me. All you're being told, come, take this medication. Immediately you take that medication, you're asleep. So one day I took my laptop and decided I want to Google. And I saw the effects. These are not depression stuff. These are things that are being taken by people who are kind of, that was my understanding, because for me, I need to do my work. But now, if I have to take this medication, it makes me pass out. So one thing I would say, the society does not understand at all. I really pleaded with Linda. I told her, I cried. I told her, people have to come out and help, because we are losing so many young people to this. I have had, yesterday a friend visited me, and her friend wrote her a message and told her, I am so sorry for what, if I have ever made a mistake, please forgive me. I called her. I told her, please call her back. She told me, but she's never made a mistake to me. And when she left, she called me crying. What is it? That lady has committed suicide. I read another story about a young Form 2 student who has committed suicide, I think, in Kakamega. Why? Because of a family misunderstanding. So unless we get people who go out there to speak about it, we will continue losing people. But most of all, for me, I look at the society, friends. Can we learn to be there for each other? Family, can we stop blaming your children when they do not perform well at school? Can we stop comparing our children when they do not perform better like another person's child? But I made a pact to myself. I told myself, I've tried it twice. But my mom asked me when she came to visit me at the psychic hospital. When she came, I'm the one who was sitting like this. I'm the one who was telling people, how are you? At one point, I even went to speak to one of them and he slapped me. I mean, people are doing crazy stuff. Right now, I have a friend who has been locked up by her family simply because they think she is a psychic. But she is not. She is depressed. So for me, can family learn to be there for their children? It is very, very important.
Hold it right there.
Thank you.
Mogwa. I don't have a question coming after what Nelly has said.
Thank you, Nelly, for sharing. It's a very touching story. And I think the most important thing is to thank you, because you're still here to share the story with us. It would have been the most unfortunate thing to say that we were expecting Bugwa, but he committed suicide last week or yesterday. That's why he's not here. And you've touched on very, very fundamental issues about the way we socialize and the way our parents are bringing us up, which is very, very true. Because when we as parents don't know how to re-rate and communicate, because I think the biggest challenge that we have in our family today, honestly, is communication. Where communication is both the way we speak, but most importantly, the way we re-rate. Because one of the challenges, because I also do a lot of parenting counseling, one of the biggest challenges is that there's a very weak bond between many parents and their children. There is very minimal communication, as I had said earlier. And parents have to be very intentional about speaking or interacting with their children. Let me give you a very specific example. We have worked in corporate organizations. You are in a corporate organization. And the question that I ask Jane is, how often do departments meet in an organization? And you'll be surprised to be told that. Sometimes they meet even on daily basis. There's a morning brief, there's a morning handle, to short, to prepare us for the day. We have strategic meetings. We have monthly meetings. We have quarterly meetings. We have half-yearly meetings. What will shock you is that there's a family for the last 10 years, they've never had a single planned, organized, fairly formal meeting. They've never. Yet companies will tell you this. For us to be able to focus on our goals, the vision and the mission, for us to be able to live our stated brand values, we need regular communication. We need regular interaction. The family is absolutely the antithesis of this. It is the exact opposite. We have to be intentional. One of the things that helped my life, and I really want to say this very humbly and due to God's grace, that my kids, when they were very young, class 4, class 5, we started formal family monthly meetings, recorded. Up to today, we have those books recorded. And everybody would be part of this meeting. And we would chair the meetings in turns. Even the house girl would chair the meeting. This is real. And I want to thank God because I got that wisdom from mentorship. There's a couple that has been mentoring our family for a long time. And that changed everything. That is why when yesterday my son heard I was coming to TV 47, he said, Dad, I want to come along with you. Because, I hope I'm not bragging. I hope I'm not blowing my own trumpet. But we have to be intentional. You have to, just like a hen, you have to draw your children to yourself. So that one, you can be able to note the early warning signs of any deviant behavior. You can discuss things about sex. You can discuss alcohol. You can discuss challenges. You can discuss academic performance. You can discuss life. Because what we lack in our family is a narrative about life. Because most of the times the communication is criticizing. How could you fail in mathematics? I am your dad. I used to get an A. It doesn't help. We are different. So I think parents need to go back to our drawing boards and ask ourselves, how can we do it differently? Unfortunately, and probably Neri can agree with me, most of us parents don't have the parenting skills because we have been brought up largely by parents, our parents who are a bit absent. Like after independence, for example, many parents left their homes to go looking for jobs. And therefore the home was left without the father and so on and so forth. But we must really become intentional. And I think, just like the Bible says, we perish for lack of what? There's nothing else that is driving this commission of Caesar. There's nothing else. Lack of self-awareness. Because it is said, where value is not known, abuse is inevitable. If I don't know my value is Bogomumbi, oh my God. If I don't know my purpose in life, if I don't know why God created me, I will cut short my life. But I can't. If God gives me another 100 years, I'll give it to the full. Why? There is value that God wanted me to deposit into this world. And nothing will stop it. Please allow me just to read something from a book here, if you don't mind. Because I think it's very powerful. And Jane alluded to it. Self-talk. Self-talk. The way you communicate with yourself, because what you tell yourself in your monologue is what defines your action. This particular self-talk is called, I promise myself. It is in my book called, Excuse Me, Your Dream is Calling You. It says this, I promise myself to be so strong that nothing can disturb my peace of mind. I promise myself to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person I meet. I promise myself to make all my friends feel that there is something worthwhile in me. I promise myself to look at the sunny side of everything and make my optimism come true. I promise myself to think only of the best, to work only for the best, and to expect only the best. I promise myself to be just as enthusiastic about the success of others as I am about my own. Let me read the last one. I promise myself to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. And I promise myself to live in the faith that the whole world is on my side, so long as I am true to the best that there is in me. just trying to support Jane's words about self-esteem. Right. There's no way you can, in your mind, speak about yourself in those terms, and then we find you tomorrow committing suicide. Because it means you know your value. Okay. But what is the key message here? Parents are the best intervention for the suicides in our families. Hold it right there. Jen, before we come to you, Eustace, yes. Listening to Nelly and listening to every speaker this morning, and acknowledging the fact that it's not the first time that we're having this conversation. I can tell you throughout my professional life in journalism, I've not been here long enough, but probably I have spoken about suicide, depression for very many times. And every time, everything new comes up. And every time we're able to save a life and so much more. Do you suppose that the things that we are addressing are not the right or the core things that we need to address? Because we can't constantly be saying that so much money, so much effort globally has been put towards making sure that we reduce the levels of depression, of stress, of suicide cases, of all these cases that we're talking about. Yet, instead of making strides, we are actually topping up to the list of the people who are committing suicide. Just looking at the statistics, it is worrying, it is wanting. 700,000 people per year is not a joke.
There is a gap, definitely. And as much as everybody, the society, the government, people in power trying to handle the issues, what is ailing us, we still haven't gotten to the right, the actual problem. And going by what she said, and I agree with her, because I had a person who was also going through the same treatment, and sometimes even the diagnosis of what is happening to you is not correct. You go there and you injected to sleep or to pass out, so that, I don't know, I'm not a medic on that, but you find she needs something different than being put to sleep for several hours. So you find someone is trying and they are working all out to make sure that this person is helped, but the way they are doing it makes this person even more miserable, because after she's woken up from that, she wants to see her life different. She wants to see the things that were challenging her. She wants to see her life normal. She wants to have a job, an income. She wants to feel that now I am living a bit better. So we are handling a problem in a different way. And I think even our spiritual men need to think about this in a different way, rather than giving, there's a way, ujui kwa problem, kwa shida, alafu the only messages unapata ni zile poe mwenyewe unajua. Hata before mtu akuambie, encourage, unajua Kenya ataanza nayo, yeah? So we need to have a different way of seeing the things that are ailing us, the people, and handle them differently without just having a cliche of saying things. Right, okay. Let's come back to Jane before we come to you, Juakali. And that aspect of knowing yourself, there are key things that we probably are never keen to understand. Just how do we troubleshoot? How do we know that this is a person who's at risk of, running into depression, committing suicide? What are some of these early warning signs that would get us saying, I think Nelly has a problem, I need to come in. I think I need to constantly make a phone call to Nelly just to make sure that she stays afloat. She appears like she's okay. She appears like, she speaks eloquently and she's able to manage herself. But you know what? There's need for me to reach out constantly. There's need for me to come through for her.
That's a very important observation. And I think I would like to use that as a jumping off point to the issues of differentiating when a person is sinking into depression. It is also good for society to realize that we have what is categorized as normal depression. By the way, we all get depressed at one point or another in our lives. When things don't work the way we want, and that will not hurt us so much. Probably we will not get into the valley or to the rock bottom. That is normal, and everyone goes through that. So if society was able to differentiate that and just give that support, that natural being there for the person and listening to them, that you heal. We don't need medication for that. But there is also something that is more serious, and probably that's what medics would call clinical depression. And clinical depression is ultimately what is likely to lead a person to dying by suicide. And by the way, suicide should not be, and is no longer categorized as a crime. it is actually an area of mental health. The person is sick. They need help. They need medication at times. Unfortunately, probably is the psychiatrists who know what they give and how much they give. Maybe the patient need to be in the know.
And maybe this is probably my way of asking for permission. I don't know how open we are to probably just share some of, or get to see some of the medication that Nelly gets. I know we can't go much into focusing on the brand, but maybe she carried some because she's supposed to take, or maybe because she feels like, you know what, I need to speak out and maybe just get to know, just get people to understand that, you know, I've been talking to her, she acknowledged, she tells me she takes like, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 tablets.
Oh my.
Do you know what that means?
Wow.
And before we come to that, so my producer will give me a go ahead whether we are allowed to do that or not. But back to you.
Yes, I was talking about the medical personnel. Definitely they are trained in that, and we believe they would be responsible enough to give the dose, to give what is required as per the issue or the level, the severity of the depression of that particular person. But we are saying that when a person gets into that rock bottom, they have hit the hardest part. They definitely need more support than ever before.
Okay.
Because at that point, the person does not see anything variable about themselves. You know, the person has hit a dead end. They have actually hit a bump on the highway, or rather on the road, and they have stopped. And at that point, somebody needs to stop over and ask, can I help? Is there a problem? So we need to be able to differentiate that. And that sensitization is actually what we need more than this cup of coffee that have been welcomed with in this station, and I'm grateful. So we need information. Society will go wrong, society will go down the wrong road because they do not have information. Even knowing how to support that person is very important. Nelly talked about someone being locked up. Surely that should not happen to anyone. We are human with dignity, and we must handle other people with dignity, whether it's at family level or out there. That is very important. So we get people hit the dead end. Before we know it, they have died by suicide, and we keep insisting they died by suicide. They didn't commit suicide because it's not an offense. People commit offenses, they commit crimes. So I think it is important for us to differentiate that this person is actually sick. You ask about the signs and symptoms. One of the signs that you cannot miss out is something like withdrawal. When a person gets into clinical depression, they don't want a story. And that's why it is good to listen more than tell your own story or to blame them as in, no, you can't sit here. You should have done A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, and what have you. So the person will feel like they need their space. Actually, they have no space at all. So they are fighting for that small space around them. They have no light, and they feel like you come to take away their lighting, the little that they have. And there is always that idea of, if I were alone, I would be better off. If, I withdrew. And that's why they would withdraw and go forever. As in they eventually complete the game that they had in their mind. So it is good also to recognize. Some people get into drugs abuse, excessive use of alcohol, sometimes even into addictions, just because they are looking for an escape route.
How do you penetrate? How do you get to them? How do you get into this safe space? Because to them, just staying alone is as good as safe space. You've heard Nelly say, you know what, I don't have friends, and because I chose. And maybe their friends decide, you know what, it's all right, now that you choose to be alone, we also give you your space. How do you slowly, without harming them, get yourself into their lives so that you're able to, bring them back to check?
That's a very important question. Yes, getting into the space of anyone not just those who are depressed, you need their permission. How do you get their permission to enter through that door like we entered through this door? We didn't just come in. We were asked, can we go to the studio? And someone showed us to the door. So you need to approach them with a lot of sensitivity. High level of sensitivity. You need to show care. Can I give a hand? Would you like to tell me something? It seems like you are going through stuff. It seems like you are not too happy. You are sad, So would you like me to get in there? Would you like to tell me about it? And that's how we do it in the professional counseling. So we allow them, we ask for permission. But you see, the person has to use a tone. Because when people are depressed, they don't like that harsh tone. A tone that sounds like you are commanding them, like you are really seeing the problem. By the way, you don't tell them they have a problem, because they do not want that to be labeled. And nobody wants to be, described as depressed. You see, that depressed. We don't have depressed people. We have people who are living with the depression.
Wow.
Yes, so that we retain the human dignity. That's my take.
Amazing. And on that very take, I come to you, Juakali. And sometimes you get into the space of this person. You genuinely wish that you would help, but you're just not able to offer a solution. I don't know, maybe just speaking to them is solution enough. Juakali, fortunately or unfortunately, public figures, have the society bearing the burden on them. Today, automatically, as the face of society, you just have to solve the problems of people without knowing. Your music, that song itself, Maisha ni Panda Shuka, speaks to very many people. And, in a huge way, it comes in handy. I don't know how many times I've had stress and I've sat down and just listened to music over and over again. Spoke to my soul without even the knowledge of the person who wrote this music. Do you suppose that we are being a little bit heavy on these public figures, on the who's and who's in society, the prominent figures in society? I'll tell you this, the reason why I'm asking this is because even when I was talking to Nelly, inviting her for the show, one, this is not the first time we're talking to her. So she thinks like the media personalities, have a huge role to play. And they have, a huge possibility of making sure that there's change in addressing some of these matters. And I mentioned that, because automatically she will ask, tutakuwa na nani na nani? I say, Juakali. You can almost tell that she brightened up. You can almost tell that she felt like, Juakali, this will reach very many people. This will be heard hugely. What do you make of that?
For us artists or popular celebrities, for us music is therapy in its own way. When you listen to music, it takes you to some other place, gives you different emotions. So we always try to mirror what is going on, our experiences, and also what other guys are going through. But for me, this conversation, especially about the drugs, I can take it a little bit further. There was this story a couple of years back where there was this lady in Nakuru who wanted to go out to clubbing and everything. And she had a little child, very young. So she was like, mtoto atalia. Nikienda out, lazima niende out. So she gave the kid Piriton. Mtoto akalala, yeye akaenda. When she came back, huyo mtoto alikuwa amekufa. So she used a drug as an easy way out. So for me, na feel hata hawa watu wana administer hizi drugs, nikawa natumia kitu, it's an easy way out for this. Especially ukichukua drug alafu unalala, you're supposed to be active in the society. Unaona? Si unapewa drug unalala. So mimi I feel it's an easy way out. So mimi kustop hii cycle yote, and for guys who are watching, everyone, ni important sana we start to see the good in things, and the good in people. Personally, our household, imagine my big bro ni teacher, my other big bro ni banker, the same house. Niko na sister yangu mdogo ni lawyer, na mimi ni musician, the same household. So that means our parents waliona the good in sisi wote.
Yeah.
So it's important, hata our friends, it's important to see the good in your friend. Unaona kama mtu ana gravitate towards running, usimforce asome maths. Wewe kwa nini hujui kusoma? Na this kid naturally ana gravitate to other things. So it's important pia as we, so hiyo love I said earlier, the moment tunajipenda, the moment tunapenda the next person, you'll see, utaona mtu wangu ameamua kurudi shule, this is good for him. Siwezi mforce nimwambia we ni mzee unarudia de shule. But I see the good. We have to see the good in our kids. We have to see the good in our friends. But human beings, sisi kazi yetu ni kuonaga tu vitu negative. Wewe umefailio maths, wewe hujui kucheza ball, wewe hujui kuongea na watu. Huyu mtu naturally ana gravitate to other things. So the moment we tunashow your love, you can see, unaweza ona. For mimi naweza jibu hiyo, the whole parenting thing and everything. Any parenting sidhani kama ni kitu ngumu sana. Mimi sasa niko na watoto watatu, na naona naweza tell my firstborn anapenda kutengeneza vitu, anapenda vitu practical. My daughter anapenda kusoma kila saa. Kila saa anasema daddy nataka kufanya homework, daddy, unaona. So kila mtu iko na the good. I can't force my son kwanza sasa wewe. I can't. We need to see the good in everything. And that's the only way tunaweza songa.
Okay, one would want to ask, are parents today raising weak kids that they're not able to handle the pressures of society? I guess that question will be left for the psychologist. But Nelly, kindly paint a picture of your life today. Do you see a bright future ahead? Nelly is always keen on helping people. Sometimes I tell her, you know what, Nelly, wait, you need to help. You need to fix your life first before you think of helping other people. So paint a picture of your day today. I know you've said there are a couple of friends and family that are around you that seem not to understand you, and maybe you do not get this support that you'd want to get. I don't know whether you're willing to share whether you're a mother or not at this point in time. And so in your day-to-day activities, just how are you handling life, your career, the fact that you're here with medication, the fact that you're here, you want time alone, the fact that you're here, there are people who probably are dependent on you and they'd also expect to get solutions from you.
I would address it in a very interesting way.
The microphone, please.
Sorry. I would address it in a very interesting way. I'm not ready right now to say the hospital that I was in, but the first time I went there, I honestly cried. Because once you get there is a very huge man at the door. He just grabs you. And when you react, because you see, I'm walking in, I'm expecting to come and see a doctor. And when you react, this man just grabs you. If you cry, you try to resist because I don't know why you're grabbing me. You are locked up. The room is called a dark room. Hiyo shindano ni uchungu sana. I remember I still have the scar here, because I don't know if you've ever seen a cow being injected, and immediately you will be locked in that room and you will sleep there. I was not the only one, and every day at least somebody sleeps in that dark room. I was there with bankers. I was there with like the lady I'm talking about works with UNEP, the one who is locked up. They know I'm her friend. I go and plead, please kindly let me see my friend. She cannot even communicate on phone. She has been, someone has been hired to watch her. When she's on phone, she's listening to the conversation. So she hardly, I remember I was even pleading with you if you can go in, but they can't even allow the media, leave alone her own friend. Now, I look at it, I'm a mother actually of two girls. They are my only hope. The last time I did it, I was honestly hoping I will not wake up. No, I will wake up dead. Not that I will not wake up. I was hoping I will wake up dead. It was very interesting to hear the lady say that suicide is not a crime in Kenya. That's you saying that. You know, the cops came to break the door because now they couldn't find me, but they could only hear the phone ring. When I was taken back to that same hospital, I was never, ever given a chance to tell the doctor what is wrong. I was locked up in the dark room. Same injection. When I woke up the following day and the doctor came, I asked him, who told you I'm sick? Did you ever ask me what is going on with me? No. Somebody came, explained to you, and you only took the part of that explanation. So for me, it is usually very interesting when I look at it, when actually that is why somehow yesterday I was telling you, I blame the doctors, because when I am brought in, first of all, try and find out what is wrong. I was in that hospital. I even left without anybody ever asking me, what is wrong with you?
But you're given medication.
They're here.
Well, we can't open the whole lot of it, yes.
If I show you, you will be shocked. You will be shocked. So I just reached a point, I asked myself, because what is the point of taking the medication, yet you do not know what I'm suffering from? But then in the
prescription,
not the whatever, the discharge summary, the first one you've written, major depression. That was last year. You have never sat down with me to ask, first of all, find out why am I getting to that level? I'm one person, I think I do that every other time. I first try and find out from my friends, what is getting you to this level? I was once sacked from some job because a young girl.
Let's have the mic up, yeah.
A young girl went to complain to the boss that I'm not feeling well, I need to go to hospital. The next day, the boss wrote on the WhatsApp group, this organization is not a mental hospital, is not what. As I'm talking right now, I think almost 4 people resigned. I personally walked into the office and told him, I've worked with you from 2014. Why are you doing this? This person trusted you to come and talk to you, but instead you decided to demoralize the girl. And you have even sacked her. And the girl was totally sick. Now everybody feels, I have a problem. You can't go and tell him. So recently when he wrote on the WhatsApp group, I have COVID, nobody ever commented.
Oh.
Yes, nobody commented. So until he got well, and when he came back to I'm told, of course, because I was sacked, because I told him that. I'm told when he came back to the office, he kept on asking them, kwani hamwezi hata niambia pole? So for me, I'm looking at it like, when I woke up, I thank God I actually did not die because of my daughters. But I can tell you for free, even my own relatives, some of them told me I am a disgrace to the family. And I told them, fine, no problem, but I'm here for my kids. And I
1 minute, your conversation with the girls?
They are my best friends. They tell me, Mom, hang in there. Hang in there. We are here for you. One of them is in campus. And it's very interesting because she told me, I'll be going to Germany and I'll take you with
me.
Yeah, we will go together. So hang in there. The reason as to why I was addressing the
psychologist.
You said suicide is not
it's
a
not
crime.
a crime.
The police are still looking for me to go and record a statement. He came to my house. I asked him, have you even asked me why I tried to do it? First of all, ask me, why did you try to do it? And I told him, by the way, I'm not going to do it. Ukitaka tena, nishike sasa by force. Tena unirudisha hospitali, na tena we uende ueleze, tena wanifanye nini, wanidunge. But I just reached a point, I said, I'm no longer taking the medication. I'm very serious. I'm no longer taking the medication. I even refused to go and see the psychiatrist again because I'm looking at it like, I think I need someone who understands. And that is where most of the people, if you try to look at it, parents just think, okay, this is my daughter. I need to take her somewhere. But now, we don't have the freedom of talking to them. I sit down with my daughter. She tells me everything. The first time I was taken to hospital, she visited me. She cried because she would tell me, Mom, I can see you're okay. Why are you among these people? They are running around. They are literally, you can see they are not normal. I decided to take them to a counselor. I was there. She told the counselor, my mom is not a psychic, but she's always in a psychic hospital. So it's very interesting when administering drugs, first of all, find out from the person. I've never been tested of anything. I just go there. The next thing, sindano, dark room. Kesho toka dark room, kujia dawa. Ukifika pale, chota maji. Fungua mdomo, unapewa dawa, unawekea, unaambiwa, fungua. They want to ensure that umemeza. Kunywa maji, they can't believe it. So we really need help.
Wow, lots of questions coming, and I don't even know which one we pick on, which one we do not. I am being reminded of how it is terrible in the country in terms of, and one of the questions that I had said today is, should attempted suicide be considered as a crime? Some people say, in the country, it is extremely, extremely bad in comparison to what is abroad. Reminds us of the marathoner who said, I think I'm mentally not stable. I need a break, and he was actually given that break. For us today, if you come and say that you are a mental case or you have depression, you have a problem, you're being looked at as a liability, you're being looked at as a danger to the rest of the people that are working in that environment, and therefore it goes to levels of being sacked. So let's take a quick breather, and because of the interest of time, we'll just come to the aspect of care and the solutions that we can look at after this break. We agree that is a problem that has been here for the longest of time, but we do not stop until we get to the bottom of it, the bottom in the sense of getting solutions. And so still with me in studio is Nelly Kidake sharing her story, Jen Ngatia, who's a counselor. We have Eustace Nderitu, who's the CEO Solani Tours, Juakali, legendary artist, and Mugwa Mumbi, who's a life coach. Nelly is an accountant. And so we keep speaking about this because it is Suicide Awareness Week. What have you done to make sure that you check out on this one person, that you could troubleshoot and say that you could be at risk of getting into depression or landing into depression and, probably escalating to levels of committing suicide. We've seen family setups, crimes of passion, you kill your wife and then you kill the children and you kill yourself. Sometimes as family, as we condemn, we probably do not look at the dangers of all this. We are condemning not to understand that, this person could be going through this, is not mentally stable, and therefore this could be a trigger for them to do something that we'd all end up regretting. So if we'd listen to them, if we'd give them an ear and just try and see whether we get them off the hook, it is possible. People have been gotten off the hook. People are now doing well. Eustace is a good example, and he's a message of hope. We still hope that Nelly will be brave enough to come out of this. But even as she goes through what she is going through, she is out there seeking solution on behalf of you and me. And mark you, no one is immune. Today it is her, the next day it is you. What do we do to make sure that such is not the case? Coming back to the life coach, and I asked this question, are we raising a weak society, weak children, that they're not able to deal with the pressures of life?
Oh, thank you, Linda. There's a question that you had asked earlier, you asked to Eustace, and I think that is one of the most important questions probably that this whole discussion can ever have. And you shared your experience that you have been having this kind of discussion and sessions over the years. And the question was, are we addressing the real issues? Are we going to the core and the root cause of the problem? My considered opinion, and I'm not talking about we people, this station, it's about the world, is that we are not. Because if we were doing that, we should be seeing some decrease rather than an increase in these cases. Somebody said that insanity is when you keep on repeating something over and over. Same formula, and you're expecting different results. And I dare say that matters spiritual will never be addressed by medical solutions. Matters spiritual will never be addressed by intellectual solutions.
Okay.
Matters spiritual will not be. We'll have to look for spiritual answers. But having said that, it's not that our children are weak. They're not. I look at my son, extremely strong, extremely. And of course, an apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It is that we have weak support systems, we have weak family systems, we have weak social systems, we have weak leadership systems, we have weak political systems, we have weak spiritual stroke religious systems. So the center no longer holds because things have fallen apart, like Chinua Achebe said. And until and unless we start addressing those systems, until there's something I know without a doubt, that I'm Bugu Mumbi, the father of Washira and Jogona. I want to be defined, just like Juakali said, I want to be defined by the success of my children. The greatest asset, and I know this, it's not that I believe. I no longer live a life of believing. I live a life of knowing. The greatest wealth I hold in this world eternally is my children. And I will take each and every care possible. So one of the solutions is that, number one, and he said that, Juakali said that, identifying the good in people, the good in people, the good in people. Knowing the value of people. Because if God decided that you will be born in this world, there is value in you. It is my responsibility as a parent, as a father, as a husband, as a leader, as a teacher, as a musician, as a counselor. It is my responsibility to really always try to bring out the good in people. Always try to bring out. I should be asking myself, why is my son or daughter going through this? And I must own and become accountable. Because, for example, especially in our naming culture, for example, being a Kiku, if my firstborn is named after my father, for example, in our culture, and if I don't take care of my firstborn, it means I'm actually alienating myself, ostracizing myself from my father. Okay. So I think the value of people, I think to me the answer I would give is that we don't have weaker children. In fact, I think we have stronger children. They're more knowledgeable, they're stronger in terms of body, but the issue of imparting self-awareness in them. We have children who do not know who they are, who are going through identity crisis. That's the biggest challenge. And through identity crisis, there's a lot of confusion. They're at crossroads as a result of they don't have the answers to very pertinent questions in their lives. And these answers are not forthcoming from the parents. Sometimes they will fall back to their peers who are not knowledgeable. And these issues stress them, depress them, where ultimately the thought of suicide may ultimately come into being.
All right.
Yes.
Well, Let's pick this feedback, and I think you've heard that. Bapendo says, I was feeling the same way, but take heart, everything will be all right. It's a process, and I'm still on it. Well, that goes to you, Nelly. Well, Paul Owino says, kosa pesa ujue marafiki. Sometimes it's true. When you don't have the money, they don't call, they don't do what, and now that renders you to more and more depression. Fadi Sophia says, in life, I faced challenges. When my husband left me for another lady, I was so hurt, and I used to cry every day. Whenever I could miss him, I could just close my bedroom and cry because I never wanted my kids to see me crying. It was tough times to endure the stress and at work. I could not perform well, but a nurse I work with I could not perform well. Being a nurse, I work with many people, but I could be moody and could even lose tempers for small things. My colleagues complained and signed many warnings before matron. I tried so much to move on, but it was hard. I love my husband. Sometimes I could see him in my dreams, wake up thinking he would come back, but nothing. I used to SMS him, but no response. Calling him, he never picked my calls. And finally, blocked all my numbers, not even to support the kids. Well, many times I tried to talk to his family and friends. They tried their best, but he had completely changed, and he regarded everyone as a stranger, kept a deaf ear on everyone who tried to talk to him. It's quite a lengthy one. I can't forget the day I came back home and our firstborn asked me where daddy is. I miss him a lot, but why he's no longer coming home, I never gave him the right answer. I went to the bedroom, started crying at this time. I thought I had a lot of bad things, but again, because I loved my kids, I knew I had to be strong because it was my role to play as a mother. I won't finish this message, it's quite lengthy. But the question is this. Those that have things to look up to, those that have, hope for tomorrow. Nelly says, my kids are my hope for tomorrow. Not my beautiful house, not my big house. But again, that is also something that is good because, you can imagine you have a roof to go back to, as opposed to someone who does not have a job and probably is under somebody else's roof and all that. What about those ones that really do not have someone to look up to, things to look up to, things to face tomorrow for, things to live up to for?
Well, very interesting observation there. But it is always very important to refocus and ask yourself, okay, let me use myself, ask myself, if I were to live for one more minute, not even a day, for one more minute, the fact that I'm still able to breathe in and out, what would I live for? That question is very, very important. Would I live so that I take another cup of coffee like I've done? No, of course. Would I live because I have a purpose? So that purpose is very important. But whatever it is that I can invest my hope in, it is critical because it will get me to the next step. It will get me to the next door, and it will get me to another room that is not as dark as where I'm coming from. So it is always good to identify what is that I would live for. Probably it's children, like that person has, that viewer has said. Probably my spouse. Probably my parents. Probably I love my job. I can't just walk out of it. Maybe my neighbors, or maybe just that one friend. And that's why we talked about talk therapy is very important. Yeah. Talk it out. Actually, when it comes to the, to the end of it, or nearly to the end of it, talk to yourself, even verbalize, talking loud to me. There is always that inner Jane Gatia that I need to talk to, And each one of us knows that there's that other voice that tells me, do you not? So talk to that inner voice, talk to that inner person, and somehow we are buying time. Because now we are talking of the next thing is to get out of here. Once I'm out of the woods, I'm good to go.
Well, good. We are almost coming to a close. Peter Williams, we are on channel 268, that is on DStv. John Mungari says those are the real symptoms of depression, feeling lonely, not being understood, and stigma. Teresa Ouko says this was me in 2017 and 2018 when you want to explain how you feel, but tears just do it better. So Eustace, you are a message of hope, and maybe this is towards the aspect of care and towards the aspect of getting solutions. Reality is that troubles will never end in life. At some point in time, then you'll get to another one that will appear as though it's heavier than what you ever experienced. What is this one thing that keeps you going? What is this one thing that will make you say, you know what, it's all right, I've been through worse, and I have to soldier on, as you speak to the person who's listening to you this morning?
I think the biggest thing is that there's a better tomorrow that has kept me going. And the part that I was able to do the things that I like to do, because even in the darkest time, I still followed my dream of music. I love music. I could do that. I've recorded. I've done this. When you're doing that, it makes you forget the things that you're going through. And the other thing I think everyone should focus on when you're going through a hard time, find that one thing that you like to do. Do you love movies? Do you love road trips? You may not have all the money to do that, but you can go to Uhuru Park. Like the time I got my first attachment, because it was another struggle for me, because it was marketing. I was doing marketing, and I could go looking for jobs everywhere. Nikichoka sana nilikuwa naenda Uhuru Park, nalala mahali, and I love nature. I think the fact that I'm in tourism, I love quiet places. I love places nasikia tu mandege. That was therapeutic for me. Find something in your darkest time that makes you feel, yes, there's hope, or I'm loving myself. The moment you start appreciating yourself, your time, you're now heading to recovery. That's what I would say.
All right. Well, Jua Kali, kuna watu wanauliza maswali hapa. Sasa, whom will you talk to now that the surrounding you have hata iko na more problems than yours? Alafu mwingine anasema, Anthony Moshiri says, I speak out to your friends, or speak up so your friends can start gossiping you. It will be very hard. And a couple of responses, of course, this in regards to what it is that you said. It's really, really important to speak out. How do we get these people out of this mentality that when you speak out, things are going to be worse?
I would say it starts with one person. The moment one person speaks out, mwingine anaogopa, he'll also be like, kama huyu amejitokeza, there is no issue, pia mimi naweza tokea. So I think we will stop the stigma that way when guys come out. Alafu pia sisi watu wa society wakikame out tusiwarushie mawe. We have to be open-minded, tuwasikize, but it's really, really important tujue kuna solutions to everything. Kuna solutions. Life iko na possibilities mingi sana. There's so much in life. Guys also need to try new things instead of kufungia mtu maybe mahali. Hata mtu anaweza panda matatu aende Naivasha, aende apigwe tu na upepo. It's therapeutic in its own way. You walk, you travel, there's new things, try new foods. Unaona, kama mimi sikuwa napenda seafood. Sasa juzi tulikuwa na wife, tulikuwa huko Diani. Sasa tukaletewa, kulikuwa na mchele, kulikuwa na kuku, kulikuwa na seaweed na kulikuwa na crabs. Sasa vile nilionja seaweed, hata sikuwa nataka hiyo kuku. Nilisema mwambia, hii sasa hii na hizo crabs zilikuwa tamu. So pia trying new things is also therapeutic to normal now guys who are going through stuff. Just getting out of your comfort kidogo. Kawe ni mtu umependa kukaa kwa nyumba sana, just toka nje for weekend. Enda tu hata hapa Uhuru Park. Unaenda tu una relax, unaangalia watu wakicheza nini. It's therapeutic kabisa.
Right, I agree. For a moment I wasn't sure Nelly will show up. And so when she said, nilikuwa nauliza producer wangu, naambiwa anasema bado wako mbali, naona huyu ametupanga. Huyu hakuna vile ata show up. You know what? I am the happiest woman today. The fact that she's out here and she's speaking about it. Nelly, your proposals of what needs to be done, because we've done this over years. Maybe we just got it wrong. What is this one thing that you think in your own capacity would come in handy to help you and many other women and many other men who could be going through tough times?
Personally, I would say I handle myself very differently.
Yeah.
In a very weird way, actually. People call me weird. Mm-hmm. And I love it that way because these are friends I would even pay their rent. And I would really share, I'm going through this, hoping it is therapeutic for me.
Yeah.
I'm an animal person. I told you I have how many cats?
Yes, very many.
I have very many cats. And I have like 9 cats. So that is, even when somebody rings the bell, the first thing I come carrying, my cat, and all of them have names. So there's one who lives here, so everybody handles differently.
Let's have the mic up. Yeah.
When it comes to, for me, friends, unless, I remember you were excited when I told you I'd come because you were not sure that I would share. But I told myself, after I read the death of the young girl, I think this month and last month, so many students have committed suicide. So many. I've been reading through. And then I found myself, now I'm researching through that. Why are people committing suicide? And some of them are very, you might look at it like it's a small thing, but to that person, it is a very huge thing, very big thing.
Yeah.
I remember yesterday when I was talking to you, I told you, if I come out, I'm not a public figure. I'm an inside person. I think there are moments I can stay in my house for 2 weeks without even opening the curtains. I'm just seated. As long as I have my cats, and as long as if my clients have to meet me, they have to, because I have an office in my house. They have to come to my house. So yesterday, I had some clients, I literally was telling them, Aki simuende. And they're like, why? Because I want my space. I want my space. Because now they're poking. It's like, for them, they're real good friends of mine, besides being my clients. So they're like, now, what do you want us to do? Now, I want to take this cat with me. Leave my cat alone. I want to take your chihuahua. Leave it alone. It reached one, I told them, please, I'm expecting another client now, can you leave? So for me, friends, I think they let me down. But my proposal would still go to first of all, to the people in the medical profession, first of all. Before you just decide to do something and administer some drugs. I asked him when I was leaving the hospital, sasa hizi dawa umenipatia ni za nini? And he told me acute depression. I told him, you've never spoken to me. You don't even know, but you've given me. Anyway, I left. For me, I would want, when somebody comes to a hospital, please handle them with some dignity. I would call it so, some dignity. We are human beings. I don't come there and do I look hostile? Yeah. I don't look hostile. Actually, I'm a very friendly person. But you see, a man just comes, a very tall, big man, grabs me and throws me there. Nobody is talking to me. They should handle those people with dignity. I saw young men there. By the way, wakitoka pale hawasaidiki. I always took their numbers. Hawasaidiki. Wakitoka pale, by the time you're still talking to them, anakwambia, one told me, my dad brought me here. Why? Because he sent me past curfew hours and I couldn't go out during that time. Now that goes to the parents. My children are my best friends. If you hear what we discuss, you would be shocked. They're like, Mommy, this is, we are ever here and here. But interestingly, there are some people in the extended family who think I'm not close to my kids. But you see, we're very close. You hear them, like the one in campus calls me and asks me, how is Whitney doing? I talk in my compound and people think I have very many children, but I'm talking to the cats. But my kids, can we be friends to our children? Try and find out. Sometimes have those small talks, just small talks, some small walks with them. We will be able to understand. To you guys, it's in an equal, my head is, it's in my, I don't know if a foundation can be formed so that people are going to schools, people are going, even churches. There are so many people who hide in churches. Yeah, people hide in churches, but in reality, they're going through so much. So you see, every other time, church. Akirudi nyumbani, feeling very empty. I spoke to a friend. She told me, umeenda church? I told her, no, today I didn't go because it was very chilly. She told me, unaendanga, mi naendanga tu. Naenda tu yani feel tu nimeongelesha mtu. Mtu mwenye hata ni judge. So you see, at the same time, even that church, even the men of God themselves, they're going through stuff. It's not that you're going to pour out your heart to them and they're not going through stuff. They're going through a lot. So for me, if there can be a specific foundation, let us forget about psychiatric things. Mental health does not mean somebody is mad. No. To me, there are categories of mental health. So when you imagine somebody depressed is mad, no, it's not. So if there can be a foundation just formed specifically to deal with such, and the only people, there are people we look out to. I look out to him. I look out to you. I didn't know him. Now I look out to him. The media personalities. I even told her, I suggested to her yesterday, why don't you get hold of the ladies in the media so that we can now come out as early as 5 a.m. because I had shared part of my family that I'm coming. As early as 5 a.m., they were pleading me, please don't go. I told them, for me, I'm going for me, I'm not going for you. Now you're going to embarrass us. I told them, no, I'm just going for me. Maybe somebody will hear my story and will say, haya, kumbe kuna mtu anaenda through us.
And I don't want to say this, but I'll say it all the same. Right at the page, there are people who appear to know Nelly, and they have come here to respond and to equally, just say something about what she's saying, some positive, some negative. And so, instead of these people coming out to help, they're coming out to even judge and shame and all that. Something needs to be done. 30 seconds as we close on what really needs to be done. Jokali, you're going to sing for us? Apana? Apana, I'm going to tutacheza ngoma though. All right, 30 seconds. Because of the time. Say 1 minute max.
Just to appreciate what Ned has shared with us, that's a lot of courage, and I think she has a lot of self-awareness. And I think the message is, if we don't ask people to express themselves, and Juakali told us that when you speak it out, you reveal it, then we will actually just suppressing them, and we're not offering any solution. I think the society, we as a society need to look at people who are going through such challenges as people who really need our help. And I think the biggest support we can give them is to first appreciate them, love them, give them the dignity that Nelly is talking about. Because like somebody said here, we are all vulnerable. Yeah. I can be the person tomorrow that I pray to God I am not, or my children. So ladies and gentlemen, the entire world, let's rise up and support these people, because God created them to live His divine purpose. Yeah. It doesn't mean we are better than them by any degree. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's probably what I would say, and really appreciate the contribution from the entire panel.
Madam Jane, as the professional here, as we close in 30 seconds.
Thank you. I like, when I'm on mass media, I like speaking to Kenyans now that I'm in Kenya. I'm simply asking that as society, we take collective responsibility. There's too much blame game. It's them, it's that one, it's this one. That won't help. We need to move. And in this life, we must pull strings from our own ends. Parents, take your stand, take your possession, don't waver, let there be family unity. Ultimately, we shall have a stronger nation called Kenya, and life will be better. When I make it better for my neighbor, it will be good for all of us. And we shall say we have managed. So this thing, fighting suicide attempts, fighting other illnesses, depression, anxiety, name it, we need to work as a team.
Thank you.
It's a cause for collective responsibility.
Thank
This
you.
is Kenya, it's our country, and we have to live together, and we must support one another.
Thank you so much. Last speaker, Jane Gatia, who's a counselor. Right next to her, Mbogwa Mumbi, who's a life coach. And of course, on the other side, we had Nelly Kidake. Thank you so much for opening up to us. Nelly is an accountant. And Jua Kali and also Eustace, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. As we close it with that muziki, Pandashuka za Maisha, or Maisha ni Pandashuka. Thank you so much.